Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the District 1 monthly meeting for April 2021. Please bear with me. I'm having some sinus issues. I'm sure many of you who have allergies understand, so please bear with me. For those who are just joining us for the first time, we've been hosting this meeting since 2013. We've been hosting these meetings to help keep residents informed about the issues and initiatives and projects that are currently in place in District 1, as well as highlighting our youth and small businesses. Just like so many of you who have reached out in emails, phone calls, social media, posts, and Zooms, we can't wait until we can get back together in person. But we can't do that until many more of us get vaccinated. Yes, I'm one of those people who are trying to convince others to take the shot. I know that there are many of you who have reservations about the vaccine, and justifiably so. The medical profession has not always done right by people of color. And this vaccine was rolled out in a very political way. Still, so much misinformation is being pushed out everywhere you look. But here's some facts. Over 211 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines have been administered in the United States to date. There have been about 3,500 people who died shortly after receiving their COVID shot. But there's no conclusive evidence that shows that the vaccine was the cause of their death. To put it in perspective, the percentage of folks who died shortly after receiving the COVID vaccine in this country is 0.0016%. However, more than 32,000 people are killed and 2 million are injured each year in car crashes. Yet, we are the Motor City and we love our cars. I'm not trying to trivialize death or vehicular accidents or concerns about the vaccine. I just want folks to put our collective fight against this pandemic into perspective and understand that the fight is bigger than any one of us individually. Do your research with scientific sources, not just the next person who has an opinion. And so now that I've convinced you, where can you get the shot? The shots are available at pharmacies and other neighborhood locations throughout the city of Detroit, and you can find locations nearest you by texting your address to the city at 313-217-3732. You can also call the city's health department and set up your appointment and find the nearest walk-in location at 313-230-0505, and that's Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. They'll get you right in and get you right out. All right. So now today's meeting, we have a couple of heavy topics to discuss, including updates on all of the Detroit Water and Sewage Department projects taking place in District 1 and what's being done to end water shutoffs in the city and make water more affordable for residents. Well, DWSD Director Gary Brown joins us for that conversation, and you will absolutely have an opportunity to ask your questions as well. Also, in our D1 Youth Spotlight, we introduce you to a young man who you may not know today, but I'm pretty certain that if he continues on the path that he's on, people will be saying his name for years to come. But first up, the city's use of tax incentives to spark development in the city of Detroit is very controversial. On one hand, you have those who believe that tax incentives or abatements are unavoidable tools necessary for redevelopment and growth. On the other hand, you have those who believe that providing these incentives is a form of corporate welfare and gives our hard-earned tax dollars over to the rich without receiving much benefit or anything for the city of Detroit. Joining us for our first segment will be some of the people responsible for setting up these tax incentive deals with the developers in the city, as well as the man who, for the last 23 years, has analyzed these deals and advised the city council on them prior to any city council vote. District 1, please welcome Ms. Kenyatta Bridges, Vice President, Economic Development and Investment Services with the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation. Also like to welcome Veronica Farley, Tax Incentives Manager with the City of Detroit's Housing and Revitalization Department. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Derek Head. He's the Fiscal Analyst with the City Council, Legislative Policy Division, And again, we'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. All right, big topic, really challenging to break down, but I know we've got the folks here that will be able to do that. I'd like to start first with you, Ms. Bridges. Again, thank you for joining us today. We often interact with each other. As a matter of fact, all four of us interact in the Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee as these incentives comes before City Council. So what I would like for you to do, you're really the first out of the four of us, honestly, who begins this process. So if you can walk the residents of District 1 through what are tax incentives or abatements, the various types, and how are they evaluated from the perspective of the DEGC? The floor is yours.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak to the residents of District 1. I did send over a PowerPoint presentation, so if we can put that up on the screen, I'd appreciate it. Thanks. And then while I go through the presentation, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go off camera just to go through the presentation.
All right.
I think I can do that. Yeah, I'll stop the video. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Can we advance the slide once? Good morning, everyone. As Councilman Tate indicated, my name is Kenyatta Bridges, and I'm with the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, also known by many as the DEGC. We've been around for more than 40 years, and we serve as the lead economic development agency for the city of Detroit. And our charge is to work with existing businesses to help them grow and expand in the city, as well as work with new companies to help them to establish a location in the city. We also work with many of the real estate developers who are looking to help redevelop our neighborhoods, who are helping to eliminate blighted buildings and vacant buildings in our neighborhoods, as well as remediate environmental concerns. We work with them to make those projects a reality. And in addition, we work to support Detroit small businesses to help them grow and expand in the city of Detroit. Next slide. So today I'm here, as Councilman Tate said, to talk about a very thorny subject, right? I'm here to talk about tax abatements. And tax abatements is a topic that I believe has been mischaracterized or even misunderstood by many of us who kind of sometimes administer tax abatements, as well as those in the community who don't quite understand how they work. So hopefully after today's presentation by myself, my colleague Veronica Farley, and my other colleague Derek Head, we will be able to simplify what tax abatements are and provide why tax abatements are needed and provide, the benefits that are derived from tax abatements. And so I'll start off by just talking about what a tax abatement is. And I like to start by saying tax abatements are not a cash grant. Many think that tax abatements, we're taking tax dollars from one part of the city and we're giving those tax dollars to another part of the city. And that's just simply not the case. A tax abatement is a subsidy, though. It helps to lower the property taxes that a property owner would pay on a real estate project or on personal property investments, right? And so it doesn't fully abate a tax. What it does is reduces the percentage of taxes that are being paid. And many say, well, why is it that developers come in, or why is it that property owners or business owners need these tax abatements? Why do we use these tax abatements? We use them to, quite frankly, make Detroit competitive, as well as to help with those things that I talked about early on, to help improve our neighborhoods, help to eliminate blight, help to revitalize vacant structures. When we look at Detroit's taxes, our taxes are one of, from a business standpoint, are one of the highest in the nation. So when we're competing and we're looking at our neighbors, like just next door in Southfield, our taxes are much higher than the taxes a business would pay in Southfield. And then the property in Southfield does not have the environmental contamination or the obsolescence that we're dealing with in the city of Detroit. So it makes us uncompetitive from a general business standpoint for a business to come in and say, should I do a project in Detroit or should I do it in Southfield? So we have to help to support those projects and make Detroit competitive. And one of the tools that we have in our arsenal is through the tax abatements. So you ask, what does a company receive when it gets a tax abatement? And like I indicated before, it's not receiving a cash layout. What it is a receiving or a reduction in the percent of the taxes it pays. And that and it's over a period of time. And that timing that abatement is approved for is determined by us looking at their finances. It's determined by council really vetting and doing their due diligence on the project. And then the timing is decided by saying, okay, you only need maybe 10 years to recoup your investment in this and to be able to make just a small profit from a development standpoint. So we're only going to approve it for 10 years, right? So the timing is really determined by their finances and what we deem as a legitimate time frame to recoup their investment for some of the items that we've discussed. Again, I don't know how many times I'll say it again when people say, well, you're giving my tax dollars away. No money is being exchanged. But there is one incentive, which is known as a brownfield tax incentive, which we can get into at a later time. The brownfield tax incentive is the incentive that addresses the environmental contamination. So we're currently working on a project on the Far East Side where there's about the former Cadillac stamping plant where there's $18 million worth of environmental cleanup that needs to occur. Well, that $18 million worth of cleanup, some of that eligible activities could be reimbursed through the increase in taxes from that development. That's the only time you'll see like a reimbursement occur, but it's from the taxes that the developer paid. And then you say, who holds these companies accountable? The companies are held accountable through the agreement with the city of Detroit. And in that agreement, there are clawbacks that are allowed that allows for the city to go back and recover the taxes if the developer or the business does not do what they say they're going to do. And so these abatements are often governed by development agreements and certain standards that are agreed to on the front end. Can you advance the slide? So how does abatements work? Hopefully I can simplify this for you. When we look at a property, and I'm going to give this $1,500 example, give this $1,500 taxes as an example. Say, for instance, we have a piece of property today where the property owner pays $1,500 in taxes. If a developer or a property owner comes for abatement, they will always pay that $1,500. That $1,500 is frozen. It's never abated. They will always pay that portion of their taxes no matter what. And that's represented by the teal color. Then there's an increase in taxes that will occur as a result of a property. And when you see the increase in taxes, you'll see like this peach color and the light green. That together represents the increase in taxes. But a portion of that will be reduced, right? So the $5,500, which is the peach area, that's the portion of the taxes reduced. And then the owner will pay an additional $2,000 in taxes, right? So you're still going to get the base taxes that the owner always paid, and then we'll get a slight increase in taxes that they will pay over the length of the abatement. Now, if we did not do the abatement, one can say, well, total taxes would be 10 grand. So why don't we do that? The project would not occur without this incentive, right? When we do our vetting and our analysis, we make sure that, but for these incentives, this project would not occur. So if they did not have this tool to be able to help offset those costs, the project would not be financially feasible. So it just kind of shows you what the taxes would be without the abatement, but the development at the same time wouldn't occur. Can we go to the next slide? This kind of illustrates more about what we've talked about on the previous slide. So when you look at the taxes before construction, before any new construction would happen, the first chart shows that baseline of dark, that teal of taxes that would be paid over like a 15-year period. Then there shows, the second one shows that there's an estimated value, increase in the value of the property, which is represented by the light blue section. And that will increase over a 15-year period. But we will then, by the third chart at the bottom, we will reduce the amount of taxes paid, and that's highlighted by the yellow portion. And so when you look at that final chart, you see the taxes again, what's being paid, the base, and what's being paid on the increase. Next chart. So why abatements are needed? I know I kind of said it once, and I can only keep saying it again because they're so important to the development process. Abatements help reduce the high cost of doing investment in the city of Detroit. Again, it partially reduces the taxes to help with the developer and the business owner, property owners' business expenses. And that reduction in their property taxes allows them to do certain strategic things that the city would like to see happen, such as offer affordable housing, because we know that rents can sometimes vary high. And so reducing the taxes that a developer pay allows that developer to reduce the rents that they would charge on, say, for instance, a new residential building. It allows them to reduce their rents. And quite frankly, allows a business owner to increase the wages and to hire more jobs. Again, Detroit is competing with so many communities out here where their taxes are much lower than ours. The city can always use tax abatements to secure community benefits, which I think the benefits that are most important to us right now is creating jobs for Detroiters in this environment and making sure that we're improving our neighborhoods through the remediation of blighted structures and environmental conditions. I'm not going to go through the process to apply for abatement because I think that's going to be covered by my colleague, Veronica Farley, which will take you through the steps on how to get an abatement. So I'm going to advance to the next slide and just talk about what are some of the things that the DGC, as the person on the ground, the first person to touch these tax abatements, what are we looking for? So when we look at tax abatements, we're looking to evaluate tax abatements on 5 kind of criteria. But the first priority is to make sure that this abatement cannot happen. I mean, this project can't happen without an abatement. So there must be a but for that's demonstrated. But for this incentive, this development would not occur. Another thing we look for is to make sure that the project is financially feasible, that the developer can do what they say they can do, and that there's a net benefit to the city of Detroit. At no given time will we approve abatement where there's not a net benefit to the city of Detroit. And then we also look at just strategic investments. Is this an investment that the city would want to do? Is this maybe the city is looking to grow automotive-based jobs? Is this one of those strategic investments that would help to continue to grow those jobs? Or if it's part of a comprehensive planning study. And so when you look at the 3 big buckets that are laid out below, here are some of the other things that goes into our modeling. We're looking at competitive site selections. We're looking at, was Detroit competing with another city in this? And is this going to help us to be more competitive or to win these jobs for Detroiters? We're looking at, like I said, what are the net revenues that are coming into the city? Is the city going to grow its income taxes? Is the city going to grow its property taxes? Are there really fiscal benefits that are going to come to Detroit as a result? And then again, can this project happen without this abatement? Because if it can happen without abatement, we're going to say that we recommend not approving it. Or if it can happen for a reduced period of time and not the full length of the abatement, we're going to recommend reducing the time frame for that abatement. So we take a lot of different items into play when we're looking at evaluating abatements, but there's a strong due diligence that's done on the front end before it even gets to the council table for council to evaluate it based on their parameters and to move forward with the abatement. Next slide. So when you talk about tax abatements, I just wanted to lay out what are some common utilized abatements. There's property tax abatements that are more designed for commercial property, such as the Commercial Rehabilitation Act and the Commercial Facilities Exemption Act. Those properties help to build out commercial spaces. And so when we talk about commercial spaces, we're talking about commercial spaces such as properties that would have first floor retail. So I know there's a project that I'm going to highlight here shortly that happened on Grand River, and it was known as the Obama Building, but the first floor is considered a commercial space and they put residential on top. So those are like commercial properties. But there are also obsolete properties, which I think that property fell in that category. There's an Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act, which that helps to revitalize obsolete and blighted buildings. So when you see buildings with no roofs or no windows and no utilities, the building hasn't been gutted out. Those are the obsolete properties that we're talking about. And these these incentives help to redevelop those buildings. Then we have an Industrial Facilities Exemption Certificate, which provides a 50% abatement on taxes. And that's more so for your industrial tax abatements. So when we talk about industrial, we're talking about like the Detroit Manufacturing Systems plant that's over in District 1. They were one of the companies that were a recipient of an Industrial Facilities Exemption Certificate. And then we have new personal property tax abatements, which is a PA 328 that abates all of the personal property taxes for a business that's eligible for a certain period of time. And then we have Renaissance zones abatements. The next slide. And I know I got to hurry up through it, but this is just an example of the Obama building that's over on Grand River. This property used an obsolete property rehabilitation act. And as you can see, the first floor was redeveloped for commercial space. The top was redeveloped for residential. This sits in the district. This project is final right now. They finished construction and they're looking to rent it out. Next slide. I'm rushing through it because I know my time is limited now. I've been talking too long. This just shows the Detroit Manufacturing Systems building where there was a PA 198 utilized, and this project created over more than 600 jobs. And this project is still going very strong, and they're looking to expand and add more jobs as we speak today. And then there was another one called Verndale Products. This is located over on Weaver off Plymouth. And this project also used the PA 198, which is the Industrial Facilities Exemption Certificate. And this company, they retain existing jobs, and they rehabbed an obsolete building as well. Next slide. So I'm not going to go into all of the other acts because I know I don't have much time. But I kind of hit on each one of these with the exception of the neighborhood enterprise zone. And the neighborhood enterprise zones are really offered for residential projects. So you'll see a lot of all projects where there's all apartments, or even in certain neighborhoods, there are neighborhood enterprise zones. This provides an incentive to a property owner of that residence. So if it's like condos, if it's like single family homes, you're able to go after the neighborhood enterprise zone if you're making improvements to your property, but you have to be located within a neighborhood enterprise zone. And so we can always send out where those locations are. I can send that over to Councilman Tate, and that can be shared with this group at a later date. Can I just run through a couple of these really quick before I wrap it up?
Absolutely. We lots of good information. I know this is one that's really difficult to unpack really quickly, so take the time that you need for this particular slide.
Okay, so I just want to go through some common misconceptions. A lot of individuals think, well, if you're giving tax abatements to projects downtown, I'll just say projects downtown, maybe my taxes will go up in the neighborhood. And that's just not true. All property values go up as a result of like inflation, but your property taxes will not go up based on property tax abatements that are approved in other parts of the city. It's more so the property tax is project specific, and it does not have any effect on the other property taxes in other neighborhoods. There's also a concern that abatements take away money from the schools. I just want you to know that in any event where there's school taxes that are being reduced, the state of Michigan is required to make the school districts whole. So at no time are the schools losing money as a result of these abatements. There's also a concern that abatements take away from the city's general funds that could have otherwise been spent on city services. And like we say, we want to indicate again that abatements are not cash grants. When we're talking about these projects, the project or the property owner continues to pay the taxes that have been paid. And then after the period where there's a reduction, there is going to be a significant increase in taxes and in revenues that are coming into the city. A lot of individuals are concerned that companies are getting tax abatements without demonstrating a need. And I want to say that, again, we do a very exhaustive evaluation of all abatements. The abatements, there's a checks and balances from the DEGC to the policy division at the city to the council before these abatements get approved. So there's no one that's getting an abatement just because they want an abatement. There has to be a demonstrated need. And all abatements have oversight. Many will say that abatements, we're not monitoring them. All abatements are governed by an agreement between the City of Detroit Law Department and that property owner or a developer. And if that developer or property owner does not do what they say they're going to do, the city has the right to pull back those taxes and or even cancel that abatement. Next slide. So I'm going to stop there because this goes into projects in other areas. So I'm going to stop here. And I know I went over my time. So I just want to thank Councilman Tate for allowing me to come to participate in this segment. And I'm always available if anyone has any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bridges. And definitely don't go anywhere. You feel free to turn that camera back on because folks want to see your smiling face while we have those other presentations going on. Thank you, ma'am. And so we want to move next to the entity that takes the tax abatement or tax incentive to the next level, and that is Ms. Veronica Farley. Again, I always do that, I'm sorry. Thank you for joining us again today. So Ms. Farley, talk to us about the interaction and engagement from the Housing and Revitalization Department. I mean, that is essentially the administration at this point, and how you all evaluate these particular incentives.
Yeah, so we work very closely with Kenyetta staff at the DWSD. We rely on them to make sure, like she said, that they can demonstrate a financial need for the incentive. These are the 5 big ones that I deal with mostly. And we can go to the next slide since Kenyetta did a great job of talking about them. And this is why we do them, right? We want to see these buildings rehabilitated. It does increase overall tax revenue. And we want Detroiters getting new jobs. It hits a lot of our policy objectives. And if we can go to the next slide, the big thing people ask me is, how do tax abatements work? And my the most common question I get is like, so what is it that you actually do? And I tell people that I basically work on really fancy coupons. The city realizes that if we bring people into if somebody buys a building and they want to rehabilitate said building, that there's an upside for us, just like a business wants to get somebody in their store to buy something. So they buy the item and they present the coupon, right? We tell them, okay, you bought this building, you've got this plan, show us you need this coupon to make it work. And then once they can do that, then the DGC reviews it, and then we review it to make sure it has its statutory compliance. It meets all of our city objectives, right? They've committed to providing affordable housing if there's housing. They've committed to hiring Detroiters. They've paid all their income taxes. They don't have any outstanding blight tickets or fees with the fire department or with the police department or with the building safety and engineering division. They've agreed and they've complied with all of CREO's expectations. Once they've done all of that, and then they've agreed to they signed the abatement agreement, documenting all of their commitments to the city, then we agree that we will bring it to City Council and before your honorable body. If they can't hit all of those boxes, I don't want to bring it to your table because I don't want to get the stern look from Councilmember Tate, because that I've failed to do my job. So once they've done all of that and they've documented that they can make those commitments, then we bring it to the, we try to bring it to the table. And then of course, my colleague, Mr. Head, he reviews it very thoroughly. I tell all of the applicants that come before me that this is going to get looked at very closely. And if we can't show that it's hitting the dot, checking the boxes, that you're just not going to get it through the door. And then we bring it before your honorable body. You hear all of our presentations, and if it meets your expectation and the rest of your colleagues, then we agree it. And then then they can get their dollar off coupon presented, taken to the state, and they can finally have their building. I'm trying to keep it really quick because I know that we have a lot of people asking for questions. I think might be one more slide. Yeah, here are all of the things that a developer will have to go through when they come before the city. These are the baseline requirements. And then I think that's my entire presentation. If anybody has any questions for me, I'll kick it off to Mr. Head.
All right, so we're definitely going to open up for questions, and I didn't indicate that before, but for those who are looking to ask questions, it's coming right after Mr. Head speaks. If you're on a telephone, you can dial in by pressing *9. You can raise your hand rather by pressing *9. If you're on the web, if you have a Windows computer, you can press Alt plus the letter Y. If you're on an Apple's computer, it is Option plus Y. So again, I know throughout the community, we have a lot of questions. We want to make sure that you have a chance to get those questions answered here with the people who actually execute and analyze these particular incentives. Again, if you're on the telephone, it's *9. If you're on a Windows computer, Alt plus Y. Apple computer is Option plus Y. All of those methods to get your hand raised. All right, Mr. Head, let's bring it home. You are the one that analyzes this information for City Council. We rely on you. With your many years of experience, you've seen good deals, bad deals. You've seen a number of different proposals that have come your way. How do you analyze these particular proposals and ensure that you provide the best advice, if you will, to the elected officials who make the decision about these abatements?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tate, Councilmember Tate. It's an honor to speak before District 1 today, and I thank you for the opportunity. As you indicated, yes, I've been looking at these tax abatements. Of course, once again, my name is Derek Head. I'm a fiscal analyst for the Legislative Policy Division, and I've had the privilege of serving in that capacity for the past 23 years. Now, in that capacity, and I will be brief, and thank you for bringing up that one pager. Yes, I review this information that comes from the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation. With each one of these tax abatements, I received anywhere from 80 to 150 pages of fiscal information regarding each and every one of these projects. And it is my responsibility to actually digest that information and put it in a digestible form, present it to the council so the council members can make the most informed decision on each and every one of these tax abatements. I also ensure that each one of these projects meets the statutory requirements based on the state, because each tax break or council can only act on state authorized authority in regard to tax abatements. So right here on this slide, we have a description of each and every one of these abatements. I will not pour through each detail of these abatements, but just to go briefly over them, the commercial rehabilitation certificate, PA 210, that's a tax abatement that provides 100% abatement on improvements. And that abatement term can go anywhere from 1 to 10 years. And as Ms. Bridges has indicated, it's all based on need. The industrial property tax abatement, PA 198, which we call the granddaddy of all tax abatements, that's a 50% tax reduction on real and personal property. And that can go anywhere from 1 to 12 years. We also have the new personal property tax abatement, which is 100% abatement on improvements. The obsolete property tax abatement, which is 100% abatement on improvements, which is anywhere from 1 to 12 years. And we also have the PA 255, which also is a break for 1 to 12 years. One thing, the council, we took a look back in 2016 we took a look at how many tax abatements did council have to review over a period of time from 2013 into 2016. And over that time, council reviewed 75 projects. And of those 75 projects, we had 9 projects with an investment of $75,000 to $1 million, 30 projects at $1 million to $6.9 million. And we had several other projects that exceeded that amount. Now, also, as Ms. Bridges has indicated, we also determine, or council also has the authority to claw back or revoke a tax abatement if a developer does not do what they promised to do. And I myself have prepared 13 resolutions which revoke tax abatements in the time that I've been on council. So given the fact that we have a short amount of time, We want to give our citizens time to answer questions. I'm going to end my presentation right there. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Hitt, I appreciate you, and I thank, excuse me, all of you for providing that very informative presentation. A little challenging, I'm sure, for folks to absorb all together. So I want to make sure that folks understand that each of these slides will be made available. We'll provide the information as to how you're going to get those slides a little later in the forum, in the meeting. But now is the time to ask those questions if you have any. Please raise your hand. Again, *9 if you're on the telephone, Alt+Y if you're on the Apple computer, it's Option+Y if you're on the Windows. Is there anyone who has any questions? And while we wait for any hands to be raised, I'll ask the first question, and anyone can answer. How do we ensure that when these projects are built, and they're very nicely built and provide value to the community, jobs, how do we ensure to the best of our ability that folks are not getting, priced out of the neighborhood? So the price, the taxes may not increase necessarily, but property values will. And there are situations where you have landlords who take advantage of that and kick people out because they want to get higher rents. Are those parts of the discussions when we look at these incentives, and how do we address those particular issues or concerns? Anyone again can answer.
Well, Mr. Tate?
Yes, sir.
Well, one thing, when it comes to the tax abatements, especially the ones which require housing incentives, there's a great thing that the city does, is that it provides 20% set aside for affordable housing. So that set aside could be anywhere from 80% AMI to 60% AMI or 40% of AMI.
So
And that AMI, what that means is,
what is AMI?
Sir, we know we've been working together for a while. AMI refers to area median income. So what that means is that the area median income, which is determined by HUD, unfortunately, that's a standard that the federal government dictates, and that includes the area of Livonia, Warren, and Detroit. So 80% of AMI means that these apartments are priced for a person who makes somewhere around $44,000. So that would probably be maybe $1,100 a month, as opposed to maybe the other apartments may cost $2,400 a month. So, but it also goes down, like I said, to 60% AMI, which is 30,000, and then as low as 30% of AMI, which is a lot less, or 40% of AMI, which is $20,000. So each and every one of these large housing projects with more than 10 units, or Ms. Farley could step in and is it 8 or is it 10, Ms. Farley?
So you have to do 20% of the units. So I believe the start off point is at 20. If you have 20 units, that's when the 20% at 80% AMI kicks in.
20, yes.
Okay, so I appreciate that. We got 2 questions. I want to make sure 2 hands raised. We have an opportunity to get those hands or those questions answered. And Aisha, I believe, Aisha, I believe we have, who's our first caller? Let me just ask that question.
We have caller 295.
All right, caller ending in 295. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead with your question, please.
Good morning. This is Bill Hickey. Thank you to Council Member Tate for bringing this important information before us and to the members of the panel. I just want to ask a little bit about the school situation. If I understand it correctly, and I think this was Ms. Bridges that mentioned this, if there's any money taken from the school millage to the let's say the brownfield tax incentive credit, or whatever it might be, the state is going to reimburse the Detroit schools up to the minimum amount per student. But isn't it true that if that money from the millage hadn't been taken by the tax increment instrument, that the city, that the Detroit Public School community might have been able to spend more than the minimum on its students? So in that sense, it seems to me that these tax incremental financing instruments can have an adverse impact on our school system.
Ms. Farley? That question was directed to you.
Well, I don't handle brownfield TIFs. I don't actually know how those really work. So I think Mr. Head or Ms. Bridges would be better suited.
All right. Mr. Head or Ms. Bridges?
So I just want to say that under the current per pupil foundation funding amount that's allotted from the state, there's no tax incentive in the city of Detroit that diminishes the Detroit Public Schools kind of per pupil funding or operating funds. There's no tax abatement that would do that. And then, like I indicated, I think early on, when there's an instance where the city of Detroit, the Detroit Public Schools is levying property tax, and then the property tax abatement reduces the public schools portion, the state of Michigan comes in on the back end to make those schools whole. So under current law, there's no incentive right now, like I say, that reduces the per pupil funding amount. Mr. Head, would you agree to that?
I think he just had to step away. Bill, did that answer your question?
I'm not sure it does. I know what I hear you talking about is the minimum, that it doesn't reduce the minimum. And this is very complicated stuff, I understand, but it seems to me that there are dollars that are being taken from the schools that could help the schools with to go above the minimum per pupil.
So I think I get it. So and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like he's asking, in the event that there was never any incentives that were utilized whatsoever, there possibly would be an opportunity for the schools to gain additional funding outside of the minimum that is built in for the backfilling, if you will, for the tax incentives. Is that, did I capture that properly, Bill?
I'll ask my colleague Derek Head to chime in too, but I just want to go back to the initial comment that I made early on, that the projects, we evaluate these projects, and it has to determine a need. Without the need, we don't approve the project. So the project would not go forward without these abatements. So there would be no additional revenues to the city or the schools without this abatement, because we've only approved it where there's an absolute need. And I'll let my colleague Derek Head chime in as well.
All right, Mr. Head, we're gonna let you wrap that one up.
All right, thank you. And I also would verify that what Ms. Bridges said before was accurate. I know people say that tax abatements are taking away from the schools, but really, when it comes to the statutory amount which is given to each pupil, is somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,000 per pupil. Now, when it comes to the taxable values of Detroit City property, unfortunately, the taxable values only generate about $1,800 per pupil. So the state really has to subsidize that amount to fill in that gap. So really, we are nowhere near the point where any incentive takes away any dollars from any school pupil funding. And actually, when it comes to tax abatements, the state actually fills in dollar for dollar, each dollar which is abated for taxes. So it does not take away from the students at all.
Bill, we're going to have to move on to the next topic, or next person has a question, but we are going to make sure that contact information is available at the end for our presenters in case you want to get back in touch with them. Aisha, who's our next caller on Zoom?
Our next question is from Keith Williams.
Keith Williams, good morning. Thank you for joining us. The floor is yours, sir.
Councilman, good morning to your panel. Thank you for what you're doing. My question, I heard earlier, in terms of this whole abatement process and the thought process behind it, is that we're reducing the taxable amount to incentivize someone to come into the city to produce, to build, to do any of those types of things, which we feel like later on will benefit the city. I've heard this from this perspective. I've heard it from the mayor's office. I've heard it from property owners that, well, why aren't we just lowering the taxes across the board so that the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan becomes more competitive and better competitive against all of these other marketplaces, rather than incentivizing one or two, if you will, and having the rest of us feel like we don't deserve or we don't have the ability to gain some of that relief. I'll leave it to you. Thank you very much.
All right, so the question, I saw one in the chat as well, is why are taxes so high in the city of Detroit? Mr. Head, Ms. Bridges, I know you guys are the ones, again, who deal with a lot of these, a lot of the formulas that are utilized. What can you provide to us as to why the taxes are so high, and any adjustments that can be made?
Well, Councilman Tate, one thing, when it comes to these tax incentives, they're given for a finite period of time. So really, what we're doing is we're making an investment in Detroit's future. So these tax incentives aren't given forever. As Ms. Bridges says, if a developer only needs 5 years of assistance, then we assist them when it comes to them getting their finance together, building their business. Now, one thing, I wear two hats. I'm also, as I said, a fiscal analyst, so I assist council in reviewing the budget, and I overview the budget from time to time. Now, prior to COVID, we had one area of revenue that was consistently going up and exceeding expectations, and that was income taxes. And that's directly attributed to the tax abatements and the tax incentives that we were extending to businesses. So the taxes are high because we have a city with an infrastructure for 1.8 million people. Unfortunately, we only have somewhere around 700,000 people here. Those taxes pay for police, those taxes pay for all types of services, garbage collections, the like. These tax incentives actually assist us in paying for these services. As Ms. Bridges has indicated, these taxes stay at a certain point. They do not receive a break on the existing taxes. And actually, there are always incremental increases. And then once that tax abatement expires, Detroit receives the full benefit and we receive the full investment. The alternative would be something like we had in 1998 with the Hudson's building. That building, 29 stories, 2.2 million square feet. The city of Detroit had to pay $2 million to have that building demolished. Now, as the alternative, we just had the book building and the book tower, 13 stories and 38 stories respectively. We've had over a $300 million investment in that building, as opposed to tearing it down. So that's why we do these things, and that's my answer.
And I'd like to just add to Mr. Head's answer in that there was like a loaded question in terms of why do we do this? Why are our taxes so high? I want everyone to understand that the city of Detroit levies taxes. There's taxes levied in the city of Detroit that's not levied in surrounding and other communities. So Mr. Head spoke about the income taxes. Our income taxes are increasingly high. They're higher than what you would see maybe way out in Pontiac. but most of the suburban communities and most of the communities don't levy income taxes, resident income taxes. Then we have what is called a utility users tax. That tax is only for cities in the state of Michigan with more than 700,000 residents, I think it is, or 600. So Detroit is an anomaly there, and that most cities don't have a population like that. So they don't levy that utility users tax on their projects as well. And then personal property taxes. The city of Detroit levies a personal property tax, which is the same as almost your real estate tax, which you don't see in other communities. So when you start to add up some of these things, our tax situation is very onerous when you compare it to other jurisdictions that do not have these same tax streams that they have to account for. So this is why we do the things that we're doing in order to normalize the operating environment and make us competitive. But one caller asked, why don't we just change the system? Right now, there has to be uniformity in assessing statewide. So the city of Detroit just can't go change the way it assesses and the way it looks at property because it has to be uniformity statewide. That would be something that would probably require a constitutional amendment if we were to try to address that.
So we're going to be definitely talking about taxes again because there's a lot of questions that have been asked. I'm looking at the chat. So it won't happen in this segment because we were going way longer than we anticipated. But again, very, very important topic, and we're going to bring you all back as well. We got one last question that we're going to ask, and I believe I see that name of Ralph Leach. Ralph Leach, are you there? Ralph Leach, you can turn your mic on. The floor is yours. Good morning. All right, Mr. Leach, are you there? All right, we're going to have to move on from Mr. Leach. Did we have anyone, just to make sure that we're being honest and fair of what we said, did we have anyone from Facebook who had any questions, team?
We have no questions on Facebook.
All right. Well, Mr. Leach, seeing that we weren't able to connect you, we apologize for that. But again, we're going to make sure that every contact for the presenters are available at the end of this meeting. And if you have a question, you can certainly reach out. I want to thank all of you, the three of you, for joining us today. Ms. Kenyatta Bridges, DEGC, Ms. Veronica Farley with the Housing and Revitalization Department, and Mr. Derek Head with the City Council Legislative Policy Division Fiscal Analysis. Thank you all. Be safe, be well, and we will talk to you very soon to advance this important issue. All right. Our next topic, communities are defined by the resources that they have available for families. Many parents are looking for safe places that provide children with strong educational and social development opportunities. There's an organization called Brilliant Detroit that has a house in Brightmoor that has made that search for parents much easier in their neighborhood. And I would like for you to please welcome a community engagement manager for the Brilliant Detroit Brightmoor site, D1's own Samara Etheridge. Good morning, ma'am. Can you turn your camera? There you are.
Okay.
Good
morning.
How are you today?
I am doing great. Thank you. I want to say good morning to you, Councilman, and also to District 1. And I want to thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to come and share about Brilliant Detroit. First,
you're new. I know you're new to the position, so it's been about what, 2 months, I believe it is.
It has. Yep. Yeah. So it's been about 2 months.
And so you're now the head of the Brightmoor site, but that wasn't always the case. You were a parent who visited the site. And talk to us a little bit about that transition, how you got to where you are in the position leading that very, very key and critical piece of community infrastructure that we have over in Brightmoor. And then I think you also have one of the parents that's going to be joining us as well. So the floor is yours, Ms. Etheridge.
Okay, so I have a presentation. And okay, so to start, here we have the Brilliant Detroit. Let's kind of fix my screen a little bit. Okay, so here we have the Brilliant Detroit Brightmoor House, which is located, as you can see, on 15509 Hayden Street in Detroit, Michigan. And we are right at the corner of Hayden and Midland. And so just a few blocks up from Evergreen and, you know, a few blocks from Finkel and Grand River, kind of sandwiched right in between there. Continue. So my brilliant journey began in 2019. I got to take you all back just a little bit, pre-COVID and, you know, all of these restrictions. So my first experience with the Brilliant House was going to an event where we were making a community mural. And I didn't know at the time that this mural would actually become a centerpiece for the house itself. And so it now currently hangs over the fireplace or the mantle in the Brand Detroit house. And so my oldest son, got a chance to participate in actually putting this together. And so for me, you know, that spirit of actually being a part of, it's like he can go and see, you know, the children and the families can go and see, like, this is something that we created that lives here in this space. When I first started participating at Brand Detroit, Rakisha Odom was the house manager at the time, and she just embodied all things that Brand Detroit is seeking to do as far as just creating this welcoming and opening space where all families feel like this is a place where they could come and learn and grow and just as it says, to create this concept of a kid success and family success neighborhood. Continue. So one of our first big events was Easter at the Brightmoor House. And so we have a really great side yard where the children could go, and they were having relay races and free dance, and they were involved in not only physical activities, but engaging in having healthy snacks and things like that. But while the kids were participating in these activities, us parents were assisting by putting together their treat bags and things like that. So it's this whole concept where the children and the parents are working together. Continue. One of the classes that I participated in was Cooking Matters. And so really awesome program where you work to, each week, you work together as a team to put together these meals. And then at the end of class, you get the ingredients to take home and cook them for your family. So this was a meal that I created in class and then brought home and made for my family, which was chicken with couscous and apples and raisins, which may seem like, does that really go? It's delicious. Continue. The Brand Detroit house becomes a home away from home. So there would be times where we would literally, after school, I would bring my sons and my niece by. They have healthy snacks, they could read stories, hang out. In case of my youngest son, sometimes take a nap. But it was just a really just environment that was so welcoming and supportive that you felt like you just wanted to come by daily. Continue. This was our weekly art therapy class, which was really cool. So every Friday we would come together to create beautiful art pieces. And something that was also really awesome is that it was intergenerational. So there are a lot of seniors that live in the neighborhood. And so they would also come out and participate in these programs. And it gives you that chance to really kind of learn from their experiences. Continue. Family support. So being new to Brilliant, once again, working with Ms. Rakisha, and then there was an event that took place where Brand Detroit was highlighting youth, children's authors. And so my son got a chance to share his story that he wrote. And he got Cindy, who is the CEO and co-founder of the organization, was just so impressed with him that she was just like, oh, we want to purchase these books for the house. And even setting the stage for him to be able to have a television interview where he got to share his story, with a larger audience. Continue. Social and emotional wellness programs, because it's as much as we are very intentional about our reading programs, it's also just as important to support social and emotional and even physical well-being. And so there are classes like Snack and Learn, where the children would come and learn about making healthy snacks. Like I said, we have an amazing side yard that is used for physical activities like soccer. There's social events where the children could come together during holidays, and even many other programs that work to help parents support children with just your dealing with your emotions, or even for the adults. For example, I participated in an anger management class that helped me deal with my own, stress and emotional health. Continue. And so one of the biggest things about our organization is this idea of with, for, and by the community. And so far before I became an employee of the organization, I had joined the advisory team. And so every house has an advisory team made up of neighbors, and they help to kind of give feedback and even suggest ideas for programs. And so this is an example of a Kwanzaa program that we had back in 2019. And so I worked together with Mr. Lionel, who's one of our advisory team members, to put together this program for the community. Continue. And so now it kind of brings us up to 2020. So even during the pandemic, when our organization, along with others, had to make a pivot. And so at that point, Rochelle, who was also a participant, just like me, who became the manager of the BD House, she really helped to lead the organization through this pandemic. And so what did that look like? Well, it looked like transitioning our programs from in-person to virtual, and it also looked like addressing some of the other needs of the community. And so right now, currently, we offer virtual programs for, once again, children and families. I think my 3-year-old is becoming a Zoom expert because he regularly attends many Zoom classes like music, nature tots, and science and STEM learning courses. Continue. So that kind of sums up a little bit about my journey and my story with Brilliant Detroit. And we should have a participant.
I know we have Yolanda Wright. We don't see her name on the in the participants. So Ms. Wright, if you're there, if you can raise your hand, we can get over to you. I believe it may be Galaxy Tab A. That may be her.
That sounds about right.
All right. So we want to bring her on and give her testimony on how great the Brilliant Detroit Brightmoor site is. Open up for any questions, and again, make sure that people have information on how they can participate in the services. So Ms. Wright, are you there joining us today?
Yes.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for being here. So can you tell us a little bit about, what's so great about Brilliant House Detroit, Brightmoor, the Brightmoor site? What have you and your family gotten out of it? And what can you recommend to others who are newly learning about it, and those who are kind of considering should they join the location?
I think it's an excellent program. We have gotten involved in so many things that they offer that we didn't know that they offer. So we got to get this information out to every family with children. My granddaughter, who started when she was 3 years old, she was doing reading as fundamental. They issue books out to her. She could read along with the teachers. They discuss what she learned at the end of the readings. They did the whiteboard, what she can draw on. They did matching games. And my 3-year-old, she's a busybody, and she would ask me to read another book and another book and another book. So it's a very good thing for these kids who's not in school right now because of COVID, and to give her a chance to experience Zoom and classes at 3 years old. She did nature talks, which is a hands-on experience where she can use her hands and go outside, listen to the birds, listen to sounds, listen to what the weather is, whether it's sunny or rainy. So they go through all these steps with the kids, which is very informative for the little kids.
Awesome.
They also have arts, glue, paste, paint, motor skills for a 3-year-old is great. It's exciting for them. Excellent program.
Well, I'll tell you, Ms. Wright, you are the greatest ambassador that Mrs. Etheridge can have for the program. We're going to go to the one and only question that we have on Zoom to give you an opportunity, Mrs. Etheridge, to answer that question again. Thank you, Ms. Wright. You may be able to answer as well because they may have a question for you.
Okay.
Let's go to, I believe that's Tracy Bettison. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. The floor is yours. I can't hear you. You got the, turn your mute on. There you go.
Hi, good morning. I am, my son participates in the Book Nook program with Brilliant Detroit, and it's a virtual program. And as he was learning to read, we found out he had some struggles, and he had an independent reading program, and he was just struggling. And of course, he was struggling with the virtual learning, the remote learning really hard. And he had a tutor, and he was just struggling. And so I found Brilliant Detroit online at another Zoom program that I was doing. And I, decided to participate. And my son just enjoys it so much. And I asked him, he was sitting here, I asked him, what do you really like about Book Nook? And he said, I like Miss Jessie. I like learning new words. I like reading. And just the, I think the individual attention that he receives from her that he does not get virtually when there's 24 other screens is another good thing. And just knowing all of the other things that you can participate in. I, along with Samara, did PBS preschool university, and they have Zoom class, so many Zumba for kids. So if you go and look at the schedule, there's just so many. I'm just trying to be another best ambassador for Brilliant Detroit as well.
You've done a great job today, and we appreciate you for joining us. Mrs. Etheridge, again, congratulations on the new post for one, and then congratulations on thank you for being a part of this wonderful installation within District 1 and the neighborhood of Brightmoor. For those who are listening right now, again, we're going to have the contact information at the end of the meeting, but if you just let folks know how to get in touch with you and where you're located in Brightmoor.
Definitely. So like the slide, says, we are at 1509 Hayden Street, and they can reach me by phone. Still learning my number. And I want to say, actually, there's a slide that that shows that contact information. But they could also look us up at brilliantdetroit.org. And I just want to also say one more thing, that we are the only house in District 1. And so I welcome, sometimes they may hear, oh, it's in the Brightmoor neighborhood, but I live over in Grandmont 1. No, we are for the entire district. And so we want to welcome everyone across the district to come and check us out in our programs.
And so let me just say this, I know that you all provide services even outside of just for that we just announced today. Just 2 weeks ago, I was at the inaugural Block Club Block Club meeting for Kentfield, the Kentfield
Yep.
Block Club. And Mr. Nate Morton put the flyers up and down the block, and we had the meeting socially distanced, everyone wearing masks right outside in a huge lot next to the building. One last question I have for you. I know, and I'm not sure if you can answer the question right now, but it's really good to see a house being put into reuse, especially one that is vacant and closed. How did that location be identified as the spot for Brilliant Detroit House, the Brightmoor site?
Definitely. So it was actually not the first house that was looked at. And so it came kind of later because it wasn't actually on the market when the, so with Brilliant, it starts with the neighbors. So the neighbors actually reach out to the organization and they do a study of the neighborhood, and they take a look at, the population and how many children and things like that live in the area before, they even decide to look for a property. And so once they identified, there was actually, I want to say it was maybe a house around the corner that they were looking at, because of course they look for houses that are on the market. But this particular house was on the market, off the market, on the market again. And so it just kind of came together that while they were looking at another house, one of the neighbors, Mr. Lino, came to Cindy, our CEO and co-founder, and said, there's a house that's on the market. And she tells this story where she says, well, no, it's not for sale. And he's like, no, I've got an inside, tip that it's for sale. And so they were able to purchase that house. And so that particular house actually had not been sitting vacant long compared to some of the other houses that we purchased.
But you all do look for houses as opposed to commercial buildings, because you want to be directly in the neighborhood.
Yes, it's this concept of where people sometimes reflect and say, like going to grandma's house, or they say, oh, you remember the house in the neighborhood where all the children, wanted to come and hang out. So it's in the spirit of that, the place where it's safe, gonna have a good time, you're gonna learn, and people want to come and gather at.
Well, again, thank you for joining us today, and we're going to make sure that we get the information out there to get as many families joining you all as possible, and hopefully one day you can come back and give us a report. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you as well, and thank you, Mrs. Wright, for joining us too. All right. Our next topic, I always talk about it being one of my favorite segments within the District 1 monthly meeting, and that is the Youth Spotlight. Today, we would like to introduce you to second grader Darius Brantley Jr., who is an aspiring actor, model, athlete, and community ambassador. He does it all. Above all, he is a young leader who has provided an example of what our children can achieve if we provide them with the tools that they need to grow, and we push them to keep moving forward and be the best that they can. Hailing from District 1 and a student at the University Preparatory Science and Math Elementary, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome 8-year-old Darius Brantley Jr. and his mother, Kathleen. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. How are you guys doing today?
Great. Good morning. Good morning.
Awesome. So, Mr. Brantley, I'm seeing all this stuff about you. I saw a video. I want you to talk to us, and we're going to play the video first, but I want you to kind of think about, why is it important to be, and why is it important to do all the things that you are looking to do right now, and the things that you're actually doing. So think about that. We're going to come back to you after we show this brief video of you in action, because you're an awesome young man.
Hello, Mr. Mayor Duggan. I would like to ask you some questions. My name is Darius Brantley Jr., and I am 8 years old, and I live in Berg, Lasher, District 1.
Tell me what we should be doing. Who's your teacher?
Miss Williamson.
She's going to be very proud of you tomorrow. So go ahead. Tell me what's the first thing that I should be doing better than I'm doing now. I guess I asked the wrong question.
I have another question real quick. When will the summer camps open up?
Yeah, boy, it was, is there anybody here from Recreation? Do we do summer camps anymore? You're asking a really good question. Have you ever been to a summer camp?
Yeah, the Comion Rec Center.
Okay, was it fun?
Yeah, very fun. Out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole, I thank the only God there is for my unconquerable soul. Through the full clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bloody knees of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the minutes of the years finding shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Today is my day. No one will get in the way of my dreams, of my growth, or my desire to be the very best in my chosen field. Yes, I said the best. No one has the right to take that mantle from me. I will sacrifice until I reach the very top. No matter how hard it gets, no matter how many times life beats me down, I will get up every time. I will fight tooth and nail. Desire, drive, determination, and fire, they burn inside me. I will not back down. I will not relent. When my body screams no, I will scream loud. Yes, give me more, push me harder, because I know my courage lies in my heart. My heart is stronger than my body. No one has a stronger heart, a stronger mind.
Right. So I mean, awesome job. Congratulations on everything that you're doing. You know, so the question I asked earlier, and now people have a chance to see all of the great stuff that you're doing and working on. Tell us, why is it important to do all those things as a young man, 8 years old? Why is it important for you to get involved in all of those different things that you're interested in?
Well, it's kind of hard for me to say this, and I'm very nervous, but
That's okay. I'm nervous too. It happens all the time. Trust me.
there is no other kids who does this. Like, I'm the only kid who does important stuff, because there are other kids out there playing Fortnite, and yeah.
So tell us, you know, you're doing a lot of things when it comes to sports and acting and modeling. You know, the thing we always want to know, how are your grades? How do you do in school, your academics? You know, maybe we should ask Mom. Mom, we know Darius did not get, you know, be the shining model of young youth that we see today by himself. Very, very important role that you play as the mom. How's he doing in the grades?
Yes, he's doing great in school. So because he's the second grader, his school doesn't do letter grades yet. However, when I go to parent-teacher conference, even our virtual parent-teacher conference this year, he's always getting accolades from his teachers. They say that he does a great job with his class and his classmates, following instructions. And I know that Darius, he likes to read. He also likes to use like the learning apps outside of class. And he also has a private tutor, so he enjoys learning. So he's doing great.
Yeah, it sounds like he's doing awesome. Way better, I must say, way better than I was doing around the same age. So Darius, I mean, with all the things that you're doing right now, and I saw that you're also involved in the community, what is it that you want to do when you grow up? When you're older, what is it that you have your eyes set on?
Well, I don't really know what I want to be when I grow up, but I'm still searching through my options. So, but for now, I'm thinking about being a teacher because I'm so good at so many things. I'm good at math, I'm good at reading, good at using my imagination, I'm good for speaking up for others.
All right. Mom, I got one last question for you. I know that, you know, during this pandemic, it's been very challenging for many, many parents with their children. How have you and Darius been, you know, going through this COVID challenge that many of us have experienced and have our ups and downs?
Yes, Darius and I have been working together as partners. I am just so proud of him. He actually used the pandemic to step up and to make a difference. Before the pandemic, he wasn't modeling, he wasn't acting, he wasn't as active in the community. So he took this extra time to try to get involved and try to make a difference. And he's just been doing a great job with it. So I'm very, very proud of him for using this time to advance and develop as a young man.
And that's always important, to use the time wisely, no matter what we do, no matter where we are. And it clearly shows that, again, Darius, you're doing just that. And Mom, there's no way he would be doing it by himself without you and your support. So I want you to pick up your award, if you will, because we are honoring you today with, let me get it on the screen right. There it is. Award of recognition. Everyone please give a round of applause. Hold it up. There it is, to Mr. Darius Brantley Jr. for being an awesome young man. And we wish you all the success, and we're going to make sure that we do everything we can to continue to support you along your journey. Thank you.
Thank you for my award.
All right. Is there anything else you want to tell the audience before you leave?
Not really.
All right. We'll accept it. We appreciate you. And we will see you very, very soon. Congratulations. You all
Thank you. Bye.
Very, very well. Okay, so last topic. This is one that, again, a lot of folks have many thoughts about and concerns. But what I'm seeing is that the City of Detroit's Water Department is doing a number of different construction projects in the City of Detroit. I mean, last year at this time, construction crews were of all types were sidelined by the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Work that was in progress, it stopped, and anything that was that had not started had to be rescheduled. As we continue to adjust to life during the pandemic, we now see orange cones and construction equipment all across the city, and that includes multiple projects that are taking place right here in District 1. Here to discuss the Detroit Water and Sewage Department projects taking place in the district, as well as the state of water shutoffs in the city of Detroit, is Detroit Water and Sewage Department Director, Gary Brown. Gary Brown, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you.
No, I'm sorry. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, but I just got to say this though. I thought we were friends, but when you put me to come behind somebody like Darius, I mean, to talk about water rates, you got to save him for the closer, man. That kid is great. He is going places. We are not going to forget his name. We are going to be following him. And Tate, please don't ever put me behind somebody. What is that, J-Day? Y'all, you call that segment of these meetings? Yeah, I'm gonna make sure that I'm not behind J-Day because he's fabulous. I mean, just great, really inspiring to
well, it
see.
Sounds like we have someone who can help present your next rollout of the programs that you got going on in D1.
I think we could. I think he could do it better than I could, for sure. Yeah, great news.
Yeah, well, we wanted to make sure we touch base with you. Again, thank you for being here, Gary. We wanted to touch base because there's a lot of projects, that are taking place within District 1, within the entire city of Detroit, but specifically in District 1. And we wanted to give folks an idea of what those projects are, what's upcoming, and then, after we transition from that, or we talk about it before, we also want to talk about a subject that we can't run away from, and I don't think we want to run away from, is water affordability and these shutoffs.
No, absolutely.
So I will turn the floor over to you, and then we'll open up again. We want to remind folks that we will have an opportunity for questions after Director Brown speaks. So Gary, the floor is yours.
Okay, I think one of my staff members has control of the screen. I see it popping up, and we're gonna go through this thoroughly, but briefly. I know you've been on since 10 o'clock and people have been going for almost 2 hours now. So I'll spend about 10 minutes going through, 7 or 8 slides, and then we'll be available to answer any questions or concerns. And so Brian, can you, thank you. So this is the index of the slides. We're gonna talk about water and sewer rates, talk a little bit about our response to COVID-19. And right now it's hitting my staff really hard. I've got more than 70 people that are out of the office, either with COVID or because they've been exposed to a family member with COVID. So that's we'll talk about how we're responding to that. Customer affordability programs, we always want to take the opportunity to tell people what's available. We want to talk about the long-term affordability solutions, because I know folks have heard that we're not doing shutoffs, but it's only until the end of 2022, and we need a long-term solution. So we'll talk about that. And then outline some of the projects at a high level that are going on in D1. So with that, all right, sewer rates. I mean, I heard you talking earlier about taxes, And I want to make this really clear, the distinction between a tax and a rate. And a tax, you can use that to help low-income customers or residents with problems that they're having. Taxes can be used for that, but rates can only be used to those dollars have to go back into the system. We can pay employees, we can pay healthcare, we can pay pension costs, we can maintain the system with the dollars, we can do capital projects with rate dollars, but rate dollars are used, we deliver clean water to your home and we take sewage away and clean it and put it back into the river, and we can only use rate dollars for that purpose. It can't be used as a tax. And therefore, we don't receive any revenue from the general fund. We don't get any of your tax dollars to support the system. They're strictly supported by rates. And with regards to what we pay for, most of our costs are fixed and driven by infrastructure requirements. As you can imagine, a utility is a heavily maintenance operation. We have to provide a lot of maintenance to the assets that we have, and that's very costly. So you have two pictures here, the old DWSD prior to 2016, where rates went up by 437%, sometimes as high as 17 or 18%, and it averaged just under 10% a year. That's just unsustainable to have rates go up on a population with the level of poverty that we have by almost 10%. That's unsustainable. You're just going to push more and more people into a situation where they can't pay their water bill. And so since the new 2016, rates have not gone up any year more than 3%. And people say, well, why do they have to go up at all? Because we have contracts with our employees that require raises that they deserve to keep up with cost of living. And so right now, our utility costs go through the roof. Chemical costs to clean is escalating. And so there has to be some amount of increase to keep up with the cost of living, but we're committed to stay at 3 or below 3%. Next slide, please. Thank you. Our COVID-19 response. We have a moratorium on residential shutoffs. That doesn't include commercial or industrial. We will shut them off if they're behind in their bills, just the residential accounts. And that's going to extend through the end of 2022 while we work on a long-term availability plan. And while I'm not prepared today to announce where that funding's coming from, I have a pretty good idea. I've never seen a president of the United States talk about water issues, infrastructure, as well as affordability issues as I have President Biden. And he's committed to solving this issue all around the country. And we know, we've seen copies of the plan, and I know that I'm optimistic that the dollars will be there to extend the no shutoffs way past 2022. So $14 million in direct bill assistance out of the stimulus dollars back in December. We got $14 million. I looked at our residential accounts. I looked at anyone that had a bridge card, and anybody that had a bridge card and had large arrears, we paid those arrears off or we paid them down. And we had 40,000 residential customers that were in that category. And so we took $14 million and paid down their arrears. We also took $10 million of the and put it into the emergency plumbing repair program. Because when you go into a home and fix their plumbing issues, you get them to an average bill. That doesn't do any good to give people monthly assistance when they have a $300 or $400 bill because they can't fix the plumbing issues. So we put $10 million into that program, and we reduced our customers that were in that situation's bills by as much as 23%, as the arrow shows on the side. Plumbing repairs, we did plumbing repairs to restore water under the COVID-19 water restart plan. 1,300 occupied homes had water restored. that were previously interrupted for non-payment, 6 million for private sewer line replacement and major home plumbing repairs at 600 homes. And that's probably the biggest complaint that we receive at the water department from homeowners, that they have water in their basement, that their private sewer line has collapsed and it's backing up into the basement. And right now I have 32,000 letters out that have gone out to customers that are in that situation saying, you need to fix your line. Less than 10% of them have the dollars to do that. And so we're desperately searching for more dollars from the federal government to be able to put into a program where we can also extend what we used to call the minor home repair program. We can extend that to also include sewer line replacements because we have so many that are failing, and they're really the homeowner's responsibility. We've also used the dollars to replace more than 100 lead service lines. Customer affordability programs. You've heard me talk about this before. We have a program for every customer at DWSD, no matter what your income. If you're making $100,000 and you don't qualify to be a low income customer, then we have what's called the 10-30-50 program for you. And so you simply have to put 10% down on the balance that you owe. Your water will be on, and we'll put you in a payment plan that's suitable to your situation. But the program that gets most of the attention around the country is really the WRAP program, Water Residential Assistance Program. And I argue that it is the most compassionate, robust income-based affordability program in the nation, in any industry, whether you're talking about gas, lights, or water. It is really a great program that's being modeled around the country. And when we rolled the program out several years ago, we said our customers had to be 150% below poverty. We've raised that poverty number up to 200%, because 150% of poverty for a family of four, you have to earn about $34,000. And we wanted to make it more inclusive and get more people in the program. So we raised it up to 200% of poverty. And so you need to make $52,400 and have a family of four in your home to be eligible. So by raising the poverty level to 200%, we got a lot more people to be able to qualify for those dollars. We do plumbing repairs up to $1,500 per household. As I indicated, that will get them down to an average bill. We also do tenants. We don't just do homeowners and say that you have to own the home in order for us to do the repair. We will also do renters and tenants. They're eligible for minor home repairs. Annual monthly bill credit and arrear credit is up to $1,000. 2-year program for most households. However, seniors, Vietnam vets, and persons living with disabilities receive $25 a month bill credit indefinitely. So we don't put a cap on a 2-year period for them. We will take them for as long as they need the help. Households have a monthly bill reduction of about 19% on average, resulting from the minor home plumbing repairs. And again, we're trying to extend that to be able to do more activities in a home, like lateral sewer lines. More than 20,000 households have benefited from the program since 2016. And the annual GLEWA allocation is about 6.5 million, which nearly 3 million is earmarked for the city of Detroit. And then every year since the program started, if the suburbs don't spend their allocation of money, they return it to the city of Detroit to help us with our customers. Next slide, please. Long-term affordability depending on state and federal funding. Again, I made the argument early on that rates, there's a distinction between rates and taxes. We can't use rates. And so even if we could use rates, you would end up raising rates so high on most of your customers that they wouldn't be able to afford their bills. So this chart's a very good example, and I'll just point you to the Detroit column. I think we have somewhere close to 680,000. I know one of the speakers said earlier 700,000, but when the new census comes out, we'll see what that number is. But let's just, for sake of argument, say 680,000 people. 200% of poverty, that's 73% of our population. So if we had what Philadelphia has, which people argue for, an income-based billing system, meaning you only pay the amount that you can afford based on your income, we have 73% of our customers that would be getting that assistance. And that means 27% would be seeing huge increases to support the 73%. The economics of that program does not work. And the program that I described in the earlier slide is the program that we think best fits the city of Detroit based on our law and based on our economic situation with the level of poverty we have. You can't take 50% of the population and say, we're going to raise the upper 50% that are middle income earners to support the lower income. The numbers economically don't work. The American Rescue Plan, you've heard a lot about that, ARP, coming out of the Biden administration. They're working out the details of those dollars. We know that they're coming. Provides an additional dollars for 2 existing ratepayer programs. I described them earlier. There's going to be $4.5 billion in 21 through 22 for low income home energy assistance program. We call it LIHEAP. And we also are asking for a version of that program called the LIWAP, Low Income Home Water Assistance Program. Right now, the energy sector has a program in place that we want modeled. Our senators and our Congress folks up in Washington have been working very hard to get the program. And I'm happy to say I'm more optimistic than I ever have been that program is going to be in place this year. That will be the dollars that the city of Detroit needs to make sure that no one goes without water and we end the residential water shutoffs forever, hopefully. New program provides funds to assist low-income housing that are paying a high portion of their income for drinking water and wastewater services during the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide, Brian. All right, DWSD construction in District 1, and I know a lot of folks have seen that going on because I heard from a lot of them, including Councilmember Tate. We're so happy. Let me just. I mean, the question is, where does the money come from to do $500 million worth of construction projects in the city of Detroit over the next 4 or 5 years? And simply, we're a regional water system now. And so our suburban neighbors pay the city of Detroit $50 million a year to have some governance and control of the system, meaning they have board members. And for the privilege of doing that, the city of Detroit owns the asset. In order for them to lease any of our assets, they pay us $50 million a year. And what DWSD does is they take 13 to 14 million of that 50 million. We go out to the bond market and we borrow 500 million and we engineer and design the projects that we're outlining. So essentially, Detroit rates are not paying for the capital projects. It's the suburbs that actually pay us through that lease payment. And that's a good thing because we don't have to raise rates in order to generate $500 million in bond dollars. The money's coming from the lease payment that is made by Oakland and Macomb County. So we have the North Rosedale Park water and sewer upgrades in progress. We, at the Charles Wright Museum or the Academy, they have a school there. We have a green storm water infrastructure project starting this month. They're excited about that there. We have sewer connection repairs and lining in Minnock Park. That's been a big concern there for those neighbors that have had water in basements. And we're happy to say that we've got the bids out now to get that project going this summer. Other areas with water system upgrades, Schoolcraft from Ashbury Park to Grand River, that's near completion. Southfield Service Drive between Pembroke and 7 Mile, start date to be determined sometime later this year. Water upgrades coming to 6 neighborhoods starting this summer: Evergreen Lasher, McNicholas, Miller Grove, Minnock Park, Riverdale, and Rosedale Park. And this is what's really significant about this maintenance. And I know Councilmember Tate has heard me say this before. When you're going, when you're working your way over a couple of decades towards bankruptcy, and there are no dollars to invest in people, to invest in the water system, and not to do the maintenance, you have 20 years of deferred maintenance. And this is a heavy maintenance utility. And so now that we have this $500 million and we are getting this work done, it's going to reduce overall costs. Because when you maintain an asset, it will have a longer shelf life and you won't have to replace it as often. And so it's really important to do maintenance so that you don't have to do emergency work when a main breaks on a holiday or on a weekend or at midnight and you have to call in emergency crews. It's extremely costly to make that fix. So if you can identify the weaknesses in your pipes and you can replace them or maintain them and give them a longer shelf life, there are less dollars that you need to invest into the system, and that causes reduced rates or at least cost avoidance, I should say. I think the next slide should be the last one. Okay. DWSD water system assessments in 39 neighborhoods, including District 1. And that word assessment is a little deceiving because let me tell you what happens when we do an assessment on a sewer line. You're putting a camera or a robot into that sewer line. But before you can do that, you've got to go in and clean it. It's got to be crystal clean before you can put a camera in there and visually see any cracks in the system. So you're going in and you're cleaning it with high pressure water. And then when you find the sewer line filled with tree roots, you have to cut it all out and clean it out. So you're not only assessing the system, you're doing maintenance on the system by cleaning it out and creating more capacity in that sewer line to avoid any water in basement complaints by water filling up the sewer and then surcharging back into homes. So the assessment is more than just an assessment. It's also badly needed maintenance that's needed. This summer, DWSD with its contractor will perform water main condition assessments. The project will consist of maintenance inspections and data collection. Assessments includes water main leak detection and hydrant flushing, which should not cause water service interruptions to residents. Leaks will be recorded, and a DWSD service request will be created for DWSD field service to investigate immediately and take care of that. Residents will receive door hanger notification and other communication prior to the work in their neighborhood. Work will generally be performed between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. On weekdays, and assessments will indicate what needs to be repaired or replaced. Not all water mains will need to be replaced, but again, you're providing that maintenance along with that assessment. Any more slides, Brian? No, that ends the presentation, and hopefully I didn't go over time, and we've got time for questions and concerns.
Absolutely. We definitely want to make sure we have time for questions, concerns. Thank you for that very thorough presentation. I'll hold my question to give the residents an opportunity to ask their questions first. And then Aisha, who do we have first as a caller looking to get their question answered?
The first guest that we have is Lolita Haley.
Ms. Lolita Haley, good morning. Thank you for joining us. The floor is yours, ma'am. You are on mute. If you can unmute yourself, please.
Let's see.
There
Am I
you go.
unmuted?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Brown. How you doing today?
I'm good. Good morning.
Oh, don't know if she froze. Ms. Lolita, are you there?
I don't know what happened.
Okay, we're back now. We're back.
Okay,
now.
good morning, Mr. Brown. How you doing today?
Good,
And Councilman
morning.
Tate? Good. Okay, I got a question. I know the water bill, you said that the moratorium has been extended. My question is, when a landlord sends in the application or the lease, and you're waiting for the tenant to pay the 150, whatever their requirement is, how can we be more assured that the paperwork has been notarized, that it immediately goes to the tenant, right? So that means if they have followed, if they are paying the water bill. So now, right now, let me see a challenge. The people that have been in the property that haven't had their water turned off, the water is staying on the property. Right now, the city is not putting it on the taxes, but we know that's a law. But now, just because the water is not being turned off and you're able to do it, you are able to move out to another property. And because the courts are closed, the water bill is staying on the property, number one. So that's a challenge that I can't figure out even how to fix it. The other thing is the water bills are so high that I can't understand how they get to be so high if they're not stealing water. Is it illegal for me to say, as a property owner, as a tenant, do not let my water bill go over a certain amount of money? Because you're not turning it off. I'm telling you to turn it off. I've seen water bills for 4,000, 6,000, 14,000 during these last couple months. And it's a hardship even on these RAP where these people were asking for this money. So I'm just on both sides. Both of you know I work with the tenants and the landlord. So this is a real challenge.
Yeah.
And
it is. And you got a lot going on. I hope we are able to capture your contact information, because I'd like to individually go into to some of your concerns. But let me clear up a couple of things.
Okay.
DWSD went to when I first got there was an issue with landlords using the water department to put people out instead of the courts by simply telling us to turn off their water. And you know, if you go in and turn off the water, and because the landlord who owns the building says to do it, the tenant has to leave. And so we created a system that allows tenants to put the water in their name, and the landlord can't cut it off. And we allow landlords to put the water in their name if they want it in their name and they want to charge the tenant, and the tenant can't cut it off. Right now, even if you request me to cut it off, I'm not going to cut it off while we're in this COVID emergency. But once we come out of the emergency, legally, if you own the property and you want the water off, then we're going to have to turn off the water. But we're not going to do it while we're in the COVID emergency that we're in. And we're hoping to be able to, you know, to what Councilmember Tate, what we envision doing is we have a somewhat of a transient population. Tenants move quite a bit. And so the water's on in their name. If they have a bill, they're not leaving it for the owner. They take that bill to the next property that they go to. That's why we collect the Social Security numbers and a deposit, so that the tenant can take their balance with them. And yes, with COVID, things are slowed down. The part of the question about notarization, that's not something DWSD does. I believe that's something that goes on between the tenant and the landlord. DWSD is requesting the tenant to get a document that the landlord signs and notarizing, allowing us to put it in the tenant's name, so that we don't have this situation where we're being used to evict people by landlords, which in many cases are investment companies that have bought lots of property and are trying to evict people through the water process. We can't allow use like
you
that.
got some people, on the other hand, that are conscious management companies
Yes.
or conscious landlords that know that I want you to buy a house. That's what we all talking about, to change this rental thing to homeowners. I can't help you buy a house if you got 2,000 or 3,000 laying on you from water bills it's a burden. It's not helping you. It's not helping me. Everybody is not trying to take advantage of each other. So
The majority,
the
majority of people are not. And that's why you heard me just say, I took $14 million and paid down 40,000 customers arrears to try to help get them out of that situation. And when I get my next trunk of ARP dollars, they're not going to be called stimulus, they're going to be ARP dollars. We're going to continue to do the same thing to try to give people relief because I absolutely know once you get people up to $3,000 or $4,000 in bills, they're never going to be able to pay that off. And so we got to work out a system where they don't get there, that we intervene way before that point and get them the help that they need. So they're not generating these large bills and leaving it for the property owner. So the caller has very good points on both sides, the landlord side, and most landlords are good, hardworking people that are just trying to make a living and help people as much as they can. But we do have some investors from outside the city that have come in and bought property in lots of 50 that are just churning the property and people that they're putting into those properties.
Okay, we got another caller. I believe Berg Lasser is next up. Berg Lasser. Good morning. Floor is yours.
Okay.
Berg Lasser, there you go.
Oh, hello, Mr. Brown and, Mr. Tate and everyone else. What Lolita was saying, I agree with her, but I'm not sure she explained about the credit. DWSD permits, allows tenants and homeowners to be credited $10,000 and $12,000 worth of debt. And American Express, all these other people, they check your credit before they give you credit, see if you can afford to pay for it. So my question to you is, why isn't DWSD saying that a homeowner or a tenant credit, they don't make enough to have a $10,000 or $5,000 water bill? They can't pay it back. They can't live. There's a car note that's going to be missed. So that means that DWSD is going to lose money once again. And when the tenant or the homeowner decides to go and make a purchase, financial purchase, the credit's in the hole because they got this $10,000 water bill sitting up there. So if we, the people, are here to help the people, then we need to make sure that they cannot, we're not going to extend them credit that they can't afford.
Okay,
it's just how are we helping our people?
Yeah, that's a good point. But let's be clear about two things. Number one, I do not put residential arrears on the tax rolls. We do not put residential arrears on the tax rolls. That's what most utilities do. It's a very efficient way to collect. You put them on the tax rolls, and when the house is sold at foreclosure, the debt is paid to the utility. It doesn't take any administrative costs. We do not do that. I do not put residential customers on, report their credit to a credit agency. So I'm a little perplexed as to how correction agencies are reporting DWSD debt to a tenant's account, because we don't report. We could do that. I mean, those are tools that utilities use to collect, but we would exasperate the foreclosure rate if I put people on the tax rolls or mar their credit ratings, with this kind of debt. So, I'm sure that, there are companies that are able to go in and look at that, but we're not reporting it. And so, let me say this also, that we do not have the perfect solution and the perfect system. It needs to be improved in a lot of ways. So I'm glad to hear these type of calls so that when I'm in my staff meetings, we can address these kind of issues and try to make the system better. But I can't find another utility in America that is doing what we're doing in the area of affordability at the level that we're doing it. We need to be better, and we want to be better. So thank you for calling in and raising some of the nuances that maybe I miss, or some of my staff aren't seeing. We will address it.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that folks, again, remember that this is not the only opportunity to have that engagement and provide you with that particular information. The contact information for DWSD to provide that useful information that will help Director Brown and the department continue to fight and build a program that looks and reflects what we want to see as a community even better. It'll give us an opportunity to do that in real time, not just today.
Can I make with just one point?
And then we have two more callers. After that, I just want to make that, and we're going to close off because we're way after, and I want to again respect everyone's time. After these two callers that are on the screen now, Aisha and Reggie, we're gonna close them down and then give Director Brown a chance to close out.
Okay, well, I'll take the questions and I'll save my closeout for the closeout period. So we can make sure you get your questions in.
All right. Aisha, who's our next caller?
The next caller is for 500.
All right, caller ending in 500. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. The floor is yours. Caller ending in 500. You're still on mute. If you can take yourself off of mute, there you go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is Robert Patterson from the Grandmont Community Association. I am a board member as treasurer on that board. And I want to thank Councilman Tate and you, Mr. Brown, for this discussion. I have some quick things that I want to make sure get on the record here. Many people in the neighborhood are concerned about a lot of utility work that seems to be going on, but not in the Grandmont area. We are between Southfield and Asbury Park and between Schoolcraft and Grand River. And we've noticed that there's been some hit and miss repairs and actions on the drainage in the streets. Some work has not been completed. There still seems to be orange cones in place, and also after rain, there still seems to be flooding going on. We'd like to know when the drain system will be on the streets will be thoroughly serviced so that we don't have these problems. Also, neighbors are concerned about lead in their pipes and whether or not there's going to be some activity done about replacement of lead service to residents in the area. Also, we'd like to inform you that we have seen, again, this is utility work around Grandmont. It's not actually in Grandmont, but along Schoolcraft between, as you say, Asbury Park and Grand River, about 2 miles or so stretch there, maybe a mile and a half. There seems to be some bubble of going on. Every time you drive along Schoolcraft there, you go up in the air and back down. It's like a roller coaster ride. It's placed at Schoolcraft between Asbury Park and Metatol. And it seems like there's something going on subsurface there. This has only been happening within the past year after some correction or some repair was done. So we'd like to inform you about that, and it might be good to look into that particular situation. But again, the main things that we're concerned about are lead service pipe replacements in the neighborhood, and like to know when there is any projection of those activities going to be handled in that way. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for the questions. They're very good. And I also have my staff that are writing down the Schoolcraft, Asbury, Metatol, those addresses so that we can get someone out to see if it's a DPW issue or a water issue. So we'll make sure that those get done. Let me take the lead pipes first. We are actively replacing lead pipes in the city of Detroit in our asset management program. So as we are in the neighborhood and we're replacing the water mains, we're replacing the lead service lines. And we've been very clear to the state because they want us to replace 5% of the lines, lead service lines in the city of Detroit, and there are approximately 100,000 of them. They want 5% of those lines to be replaced a year for the next 20 years until they're all gone. And we've been very clear that unless they are going to help fund that, I can't pass a $40 million a year cost to ratepayers. It would make water unaffordable. And so we've been made assured that when the ARP dollars come, there will be money for additional replacement of lead service lines. We want to go faster, but the capacity, having the contractor capacity to be able to do it is challenging. But as soon as we get those dollars, we will start to ramp up, get contracts out on the street to go faster in replacing lines. We've replaced 1,200, but in order to go faster, we have to have the dollars. The contractor capacity has to be available and put in place. And it's probably, Councilmember Tate, going to mean we're going to have to train Detroiters to be able to do this work so that the contractors can use Detroiters to do it. So we're very concerned about the lead service lines, but I want everybody to be clear. The national EPA standard before action has to be taken, it's called the actionable level, is 15 parts per billion. Michigan has the most stringent lead and copper rule in America at 12 parts per billion. And our last round of testing, Detroit's at 9 parts per billion. So the point I want to make is the water is safe. I don't want anybody to think that the quality of the water is not safe. Do we need to replace the lead service lines? Sure we do. And we want to go faster. We just need help paying for it so we don't pass that cost on in rates and then cause your rates to go skyrocketing. Number two, with regards to the sporadicness that you see Vector trucks out in the neighborhood cleaning storm drains. Right now, DWSD has purchased 12 Vector trucks. They cost about $500,000 a piece. We don't have the drivers that can operate those trucks due to COVID. But we've doubled the number of miles that we were able to clean so far this year to 600 miles. Last year alone, we only got 300 miles. And we're committed to hiring, training more individuals to be able to operate that equipment. But that is an area that's a specialized piece of equipment. You need a special endorsement on a license to be able to operate the truck. And they're very expensive. We need people to operate them properly so that they don't damage the equipment. But we are dedicating ourselves to cleaning more sewer lines. And that might be a metric that council wants to ask me to report back to every 6 months. How many miles are you getting cleaned? Because the more cleaning we get done, the less water and basement backups that you have. So I'll stop there. And I think I answered the main questions, and I thought you might have one more. I know you're getting close to your cutoff time.
Yep, we definitely have one last caller. I believe that is caller 834, caller ending in 834. If you're on, please unmute yourself. Floor is yours.
Okay, my name is Gwendolyn Weathersby. I just want to ask one question. How do the people rate? How do they let their bill be so high within a 30-day period?
Normally it's because they have leaks in the home. They have toilets running. They have a faucet on the outside of the home running. The only way a bill can get the normal number of, we call them CCFs, is about 3,000 gallons a month in a home with a family of 4 is about 3 CCFs. Sometimes we see it as high as 18 and 20. And we know that that water is running in that house 24 hours a day. And when we can look at the history of the water running by hour in that home, we see that it's running all night. And we know people are asleep. There's no one using water, but the water is running. And so it's just critically important to get in and fix the plumbing issues so that the homeowner can get to an average payment.
All right.
Are they notified?
Yes, we do have a process that, we do have a notice that we send out, but just like I got 32,000 letters out to residents saying you need to fix your sewer line, less than 10% of the people have done it. A lot of it's because of cost and other reasons, but we do have the ability to send out a notice on the bill as well as a separate notice. It's called a leak letter to these homeowners, but getting them to get those repairs done is the challenge.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. I mean, we've gone way past, we're in overtime right now, and I know you've been on for the entire call, Gary. We appreciate you don't want to abuse that time. We're going to definitely have you back because, again, we've got some additional things that we want to roll out, and I know there's additional questions that we did not get a chance to get answered today. And so looking forward to that opportunity. I know you wanted to close out with something before we wrap up.
Just two. If anyone listening knows of any Detroiter that is living in a home without water, we need to know that address so that we can come and turn the water on. No questions asked. This is COVID. We're in an emergency. We want to get the water on. We have the dollars to do it. So if you know of a family member, a neighbor, anyone in the area that is living, I'm not talking about somebody that bought a land bank house and is trying to fix it up and get it ready to live in or ready to rent. I'm talking about someone that's actively living in a house. My commitment is we'll have the water back on. Even if we have to go into that home and install plumbing to get it done, we'll get it on within 24 hours. That's number one. And then number two, for all of my friends that are water advocates, keep an eye on our website. We're going to be putting on a training program for those advocates that might want to apply for nonprofit. These are nonprofits that I'm talking about that want to apply for some of these dollars that are coming into the system for affordability type programs, similar to what Wayne Metro does. We want to help identify where the dollars are in the federal government, whether they're over in HUD or whether they're in EPA. We want to identify to you where we think the dollars are and provide some limited training on the application process to get dollars. You have a lot of community groups in your neighborhood that are nonprofits that are helping people every day. And we want to try to at least identify where we think the dollars are and what the application process is and some limited amount of training. Now that's different. I don't get to pick winners and losers. The government's not going to give me the money and I give it to nonprofits. There's going to be an application process, but we want to help you work through that process. That's all. We're putting the program together now. We'll have more on our website about the meeting that we use to help people with that.
All right, Director, Water to Sewage Department, Gary Brown, thank you again for joining us, and we will absolutely have you back for an update on that program and others as we move forward. Again, have a great weekend, be safe and be well, and very much appreciate your joining us today. All right, so now on to our final, we're wrapping up. Again, we want to make sure the folks are capture the contact information as we end this particular meeting. But before we do, I just want to take the time to wish a very happy birthday to Mother Lolita Height, who lives in Grandmont 1. Reggie, I think we have a photo. Yeah, as you see in the photo, there we go. As you see her in the photo here, Mother Height, who's on the right, she is, on that day, she was celebrating her 101st birthday. Sitting next to her was Miss Person, and she is now 95 years old, Miss Person. But Miss Height, Mother Height, this past weekend, she celebrated 105 years of blessed life here in the land of the living. We are so thankful and grateful to have an opportunity to celebrate with her. And we were there last weekend. There we go. And we wanted to take the time today to also give Mother Height her flowers in front of the larger D1 community. So again, happy birthday, Mother Height. Thank you for family for allowing us to celebrate with you. And we will continue to be there with you as we move forward. District 1, thank you for joining us today. It was a little bit longer than we anticipated, but a lot of information, a lot of great information provided. We're going to have all of the slides that you saw today on the City of Detroit's website. It's the City Council's website for the page, but it's the James Tate page, my page. So that way it'll be easy to find. We'll send you out the information on how to locate it. But in the meantime, we're going to put up the contact information for those presenters who joined us today. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank the team, my team, for doing such a tremendous job today as well. And until next time, God bless you. You all be safe, be well. And don't forget, for those of you who have not gotten it, make sure that you get your COVID vaccine. All right? Talk to you soon. Take care. Go District 1.